Now, I'm going to read you these names super fast and in a hurry, but only 5 will be announced. Eric Allen, the corner. Jared Allen, defensive end. Willie Anderson, tackle. Jahari Evans, a guard. Antonio Gates, we remember, tight end. Tory Holt, wide receiver. Luke Kuechly, Boston College. Linebacker, Eli Manning, QB. Steve Smith, senior wide receiver. Terrell Suggs, pass rusher. Fred Taylor, running back on that Pivot podcast, too. Adam Vinatieri, kicker, who we just had. Yep. Reggie Wayne, wide receiver. Darren Woodson, safety. Marshall Yanda, offensive lineman with the Ravens. Only 5 will get in. Let's go all 5, who we think. Let's start this out. I mean, let's go with the obvious ones, right? Because some of these could be fringe. Obvious for me that jumps right out, and we just had him on, is Adam Vinatieri.
100%.
I mean, what the hell? If he doesn't get in, what's wrong with the Hall of Fame? What more can a guy do? Game-winning kicks in big games, like conference championships, Super Bowls with Brady and Manning.
4 rings.
Well, this is the definition of a Hall of Famer, is it not? Yes. Adam Vinatieri is the slam dunkiest dunk of this class, in my opinion.
It's not just that he's the greatest kicker of his generation. He's the greatest kicker ever.
All time.
For the rings, for the big game performances, for the longevity of his career as well.
Yeah.
96 to 2019.
Yeah.
NFL's all-time scorer. That's it. It's like you look at this list, who's like first ballot, no doubt about it.
That's right.
Who jumps off. As I'm going through the list, I'm like, oh, he's good. Does he get in? Oh, but he's in this class. And who else? You get to Adam Vinatieri and you go, full stop, Adam Vinatieri's getting in.
Yes.
So that's an obvious one to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The other one, he didn't get in on his first try. I think it's overdue. I think Tory Holt should get in this class.
Okay.
And listen, I watched all of Tory Holt's career. He looked the part. He was an integral part of the greatest show on turf. Mm-hmm. You have to go Tory Holt here. I understand that the game has changed now. Even since then, as prolific as the greatest show on turf was, still caught that L in the Super Bowl, though. Hoyo. However, the game has changed, so all these receivers' numbers are inflated. So Tory Holt's isn't as eye-popping. But, I mean, we all watched. Mm-hmm. This guy is a Hall of Famer. I think it's overdue. He should already be in. I think the committee should make it right now. Tory Holt, in my mind, is a Hall of Famer. What say you?
His run for his career was ridiculous.
Yeah.
One of the most explosive receivers in the game, one of the fastest. Had multiple, in the day of football, and especially in the early 2000s, where it was still run dominant, defense dominant. To your point, the greatest show on turf, multiple 1,600-yard seasons. Won a Super Bowl as well. How long he had his career. What I hate with how wide receivers are treated in the NFL is that they seem always, he'll get in eventually. So that's what I feel it will be with Steve Smith Sr. I think Steve Smith Sr. should get in. I think Tory Holt should get in. I don't think Steve Smith Sr. gets in because Tory Holt is getting in this year.
Okay.
So in my opinion, Tory Holt should get in. And it's because he's one of the greatest receivers of all time. One of the greatest receivers in his window that he played. Super Bowl champion, too.
Bro, I have
he was before his time.
He was. He actually was. He would be even better in this day and age. Because back then, you could hit receivers hard and whatnot. Shots fired. You brought up Steve Smith Sr. I don't think he gets in this time, although he should. I have 3 other names that I'll give you I think will beat him out. But I do. I mean, I feel like I had such a privilege. I covered him in Baltimore. I covered Marshall Yanda in Baltimore, and I covered Terrell Suggs, all 3 of them.
That's insane.
And that is crazy to see all these names on here. I actually have a Steve Smith Sr. story. So the Ravens had a practice outside of their facility at a local stadium. And so I'm there. I'm just a young buck coming up in the game. One-man band. I'm sure you remember this from Missouri days. Mm-hmm. You have the camera. You're doing everything. Live shot, shooting, all of it. And the buzzer goes off for the end of practice. All the Ravens are running off. I got a gang of them already, sound-wise, right? But I wanted Steve Smith Sr. It's his first season there. And I was like, damn, I didn't get him. But he's running past me. Ravens brass. The PR is like, come on, guys, let's go. We got to go in. And I go, hey, Steve, can you just give me a quick 2-minute interview? I'm just a young man trying to make it. I literally said that. He goes, yeah, I got you. Stops, takes off his helmet, gets comfortable. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm scrambling. I give him the mic. I start asking my questions. Of course. Ravens PR comes over, gets in my face. Hey, it's the end of practice. What are you doing? Steve Smith goes, it's cool. he's with me.
Nice.
I got 5 minutes with Steve Smith.
Yeah.
The whole field had cleared out. Fans were leaving. He's interviewing with me, shakes my hand, says, "Good luck, kid," and goes in. Think about that.
Love that.
That's a Hall of Famer.
Because I love that he did it in the nice way possible.
He did.
And he was a mother effer on the field.
Man.
But he literally, it's like when they get in your face, you can be like, he's a grown man. He made his own choice and said yes. That's what Steve Smith basically said. Like, I'm a grown man. I can talk to him.
It's very, in hindsight now, you're right. It's very Steve Smith to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I got this.
Yeah.
But
he's just asking me questions.
He
That's
did
awesome.
It with me, and thank you, Steve Smith. All right. You're still not going to make it this time.
Hold on. But he's 8th all-time in receiving yards.
I know.
He's the Panthers all-time leading receiver.
I know.
He was so dominant at his size, too, which is so impressive. One of the best run-blocking wide receivers in the game. One of the hardest runners after the catch.
All-around game.
Just so dominant.
Got hurt, came back, still is good.
And for such a long span as well.
Yeah.
14, 15-year career, I think.
He was great with the Ravens, too, later.
Exactly. When he went to the Ravens, it's one of those new settings. You think he still got it, and he still did. It's what he did with Carolina, and it's what he did with Baltimore. He wasn't that consistent year in, year out, 1,000-yard receiver, but he played so hard that he battled through it.
Yeah.
And still, again, a not consistent 1,000-yard receiver, 8th all-time in the NFL in receiving yards.
Bro.
He's one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. He should get in.
One thing you left out with him is for the majority of his career, no shade, but it was Jake Delhomme.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that says it all.
Super Bowl appearing Jake Delhomme.
As much as I love Steve Smith Sr., and it sounds like he's on your list, he's not on mine. I have Antonio Gates, which, let's call him what he was. He probably was one of the original, prototypical tight ends that we see now in the league. He was back then.
Athletic, good route runner.
My God.
Won't block too much, but could block.
And he didn't have Jake Delhomme throwing him the ball. He had Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
And he had Drew Brees before that, actually. So I think Antonio Gates gets in.
Are you ready for the Eli Manning conversation?
He's got to get in, George.
Eventually.
I think he gets in now.
No.
I do. That's why I have Steve Smith Sr. off. I think Eli gets in.
He's not. He won 2 Super Bowls. He was super clutch in both playoff runs. Obviously, super clutch in both playoffs.
He doesn't have Hall of Fame numbers.
Super clutch in both Super Bowls. Exactly. He's not. When he was in the NFL, he wasn't one of the best quarterbacks. When he was in the league. So you're going to say he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time by putting him in the Hall of Fame. But it's the 2 wins. It's playing on the big stage. And if he never gets in, he'd be one of 2 quarterbacks to have two rings and not get in. Jim Plunkett.
You know damn well.
He's going to get in.
Jim Plunkett. Can we listen? Respect to Jim Plunkett. His last name ain't Manning, dog. And by the way, the longer
he doesn't get in,
longer time goes. Let's say Eli doesn't get in, and you're right. The longer this goes, he's not getting in because his numbers are not Hall of Fame. He has to get in now, and I do not believe for a second. Call me a conspiracy theorist all you want. Maybe I am, but I don't believe for a second that the NFL is going to let a Manning
he'll get in eventually.
Just wither away in the ether. Oh, he's not a Hall of Famer. Peyton, you're in. Come on. No way. No shot. Eli gets in immediately and expeditiously because they don't want that hanging over the product. So I have Eli on my list as well. And then I have Luke Kuechly getting in. Listen, he should have played longer.
He couldn't.
That's the knock on him, and he couldn't.
He could not.
He could not.
Yeah.
But that's the knock. I do understand the thinking of, well, he didn't play long enough. But if you look at his numbers, unlike Eli gave us the moments, the Hall of Fame moments. Lord knows we know it around here. Kuechly, technically, even though he didn't play as long as we all would have hoped and liked to see him play, his numbers are Hall of Fame. He was so prolific in a short span of time that I think Kuechly gets in.
He was Defensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, 7-time All-Pro, 5 of those first-team All-NFL. Again, it's like my Hall of Fame conversation starts with Luke Kuechly. Were you the best linebacker when you played in the NFL? Yes. And that's where it starts for him. And it is, again, what people go, availability, injuries. It was concussions for him. It wasn't knees. It wasn't shoulder. It wasn't him missing games for any reason. He was the best linebacker whenever he was in the NFL. 2-time led the league in sacks as well. And he was doing it all with the Carolina Panthers. A lot of good defensive players around him, played for some good coaches. But it was him also, too, like part of the game. And what makes quarterbacks great and what you attribute to them a lot is their IQ and what they bring in preparation of the game. Luke Kuechly knew that better than anybody.
Cerebral.
So smart, so tough. Exactly how cerebral he was. I think he gets in. Okay. I'm in on Kuechly getting in.
Bro, we have the same list except one, and I can't even believe you're doing this. I have Vinatieri, Holt, Gates, Kuechly, and Manning. You have Vinatieri, Holt, Gates, Kuechly, and my list is serving me correct. Steve Smith.
I have Steve Smith in. I don't have Eli in.
I can't believe this.
I have Steve Smith in.
Does Eli ever get in? Because
yes.
My theory is the longer it goes, the worse his numbers look. I think this is his window. I can't believe we disagree. I am shocked that you don't have Eli in the Hall of Fame. Shocked.
I can't when Steve Smith is on the ballot. But you know what they say? Steve next year.
Yeah, because remember, I brought this up with Tory Holt.
Steve, you get it next year.
Receivers.
Tory's been waiting.
So we agree with Tory. But receivers, there's going to be a log jam.
Yeah.
There probably already is.
There
Tory
is.
Holt not being in tells you, right?
Exactly.
But there's going to be a log jam because of the numbers, George. The numbers are so inflated and insane that I just don't think receivers are really, unless you're a Randy Moss, right, where it's obvious, I don't think receivers are getting in first ballot. I think this is going to be a pattern for a lot. We will see a lot of great receivers who we covered and we watched that were like, how are they? Steve Smith's one of them. Like, how are they not first ballot? This is how, because there's a logjam. I am telling you, I'm willing to bet. Maybe we should revisit this next episode. But I'm willing to bet Eli gets in. I just don't think the NFL is going to play that game where he doesn't get in and he lingers around and people say, his numbers aren't great.
I'm not saying he's going to wait forever.
I'll give you a comp.
Just not getting in right now.
I'll give you a comp. Terry Bradshaw, Joe Namath. These guys,
more interceptions and touchdowns.
Their numbers were awful.
But in the big game, all Joe Namath did was say they're going to win. That was it. That was literally it. He played terrible in that Super Bowl.
George, that's all it takes, baby.
Terry Bradshaw has more career interceptions than touchdowns.
That's all it takes, baby. The moments.
But we have too much information in this day and age to say the moments.
That's why I think time will hurt Eli. That's why you got to do it
get him in now.
You got to do it now. By the way, last thing on this. You are glossing over the biggest point. His last name is Manning.
You going to make Eli wait?
Nope.
You going to make Peyton wait?
Nope. By the way, Terrell Suggs was good. Yondo was good.
Jared Allen's a unique name. He bounced around the league. He has over 130 career sacks.
Gosh, there's some good names on this. Don't you love football? Fred Taylor's not getting in. I love your podcast.
I don't think Fred Taylor ever gets in.
Hey, man, I love your podcast, man. You ain't getting in, dog. It's not going to happen.
He was talented. There's just a lot of bad Jaguars teams. But it's like, So you would tell me, like, eventually, Fred Taylor, you're putting him in on a ballot above a Steve Smith?
No.
Above a Terrell Suggs?
No shot.
Above a Luke Kuechly?
No shot.
Above a Tory Holt?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
No.
It's just like on this alone. Above Antonio Gates?
Yeah, respected career, but no. He's not getting in above any of those guys. I think Eli gets in based off of 2 Super Bowls against our Patriots.